All right, I guess this is started. Cool. First stream. All right. So the goal here is to go through a recent photo shoot and basically select the keepers from the set of photos that I had. It looks like I have, where is this here? 245 photos from here. That's probably not quite right because I was playing with the file naming system. So I imported this first one here like 5, 6 times to try different names and see what I liked. I ended up settling on something totally different. Just this ISO name, datetime, and a single ID. I dropped all the real detail from it. And you know what? Honestly, I really do like it with the shorter name. All right, cool. Let me pop on the key light here. All right, so since I mentioned that I have a bunch of extra photos that I do want to get rid of right away, what I'm going to do is flag them first. So that is option 1. I'll give it this little red flag here. I'll do the same here. This one I'm going to keep. This little Z here shows it's grouped, so it has the JPEG and the RAW file. So one thing I did do earlier is I went down to group and I went to group selected by file name. I was debating whether or not I wanted to ungroup it, but there's really no point to do it twice. I'm not really going to show you anything exciting. All right, cool. I did forget to mention this is Digikam, and this is not quite the newest. It's 8.6, I believe 8.7's out not that long ago. And I am running this on a 2020 MacBook Pro with 32 gigs of RAM. And it is running Sequoia. I don't know. Let's check that real quick. Yep, Sequoia 1561. All right, very good. All right, cool. So anyway, back to these flags. So option 1 is the command for the flags. So these unpaired ones, I'm just going to go ahead and flag those. What I can also just kind of do to verify is check the time. So we've got this 5:37:47. Same for all of these here. And then our next one is 5:38. So yeah, it's a bit of a separation in terms of time. All right, so what I'm going to do is make use of the filter system. So as mic's in the way. Over here on the filters, I go down here. This is kind of really the main control panel I use for this whole process. I'm going to select the rejected. So that's these here. Go ahead, select all, so Control A, and move to trash. All right, I'm going to get rid of this filter. And then the strategy here is to mark anything that is worth keeping. So I usually rate those as 3 if they're in focus, kind of interesting. 4 if they're like really great. 5 would be amazing. I don't think I've tagged anything as a 5 right out of the box. 2 is sort of waffling about whether or not to keep it. So we'll kind of go from there. I used to tag 1, but as something to reject, but it's not really worth it. If I'm going through and deleting at the same time, doing it immediately, then it is not worth doing. If I'm going to get anticipating getting interrupted in the process, it can be helpful. However, say I did something like this, I go rate those, I forget where I am. I can always go ahead, if I look at just these non-rated, I can go back to 3, pick the most recent one, and then clear the filters. That'll leave it selected. So that's always a good way to go back to the last one I did rate. So you may have some, if there's a stretch where I just thought were bad, I may have to re-rate those, but it's just never happened to be more than like 10 or so. All right. This is the thumbnail view. I have everything organized by date of import. And then what'll happen is I'll click in here. I'll bring it over to this preview. Sorry, with the click tracking, it's a little bit less as behaved as I'd like. All right, so this one's kind of interesting. If I go ahead and hit Command period, that'll zoom in. So this one's actually like a really cool shot, but if we look at this here, we're seeing this semi-palmetted sandpiper is like totally out of focus, so I missed focus on this shot. The zoomed in view, so that command dot, that is not reliable because this shows us the reduced size preview here, right? So sometimes you can have a scenario where it looks like it's blurry, but it is actually in focus. So we can do that. And then what I've done in that scenario is I've mapped Option F to open the file into my Finder window, which swap that out here. So be this one right here. Oop. Don't want to rename it, but I want to preview. Okay. Okay, so that lets me confirm on, it's still the JPEG, so there's still some work that's being done or processing that's being done in camera that is not necessarily present in the RAW. We'll go from there. All right, so this one I'm gonna mark 2 because I do like this whole aesthetic, but the sandpiper's out of focus, so this one looks better. Yeah, okay, that's already more focused. So what I'm gonna do is go 3 and back 1, get rid of the 2. So I hit 2 again. One thing I also did is I think so you can hit Command 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what I also did is map just a single key, so I got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1. Okay. That allows me to kind of go quickly through here, and then I can arrow over with the right, left arrows. And that's usually pretty much all I need to know how to do. Alright. So here. Alright, so this is kind of like an interesting environmental shot, but nothing to write home about, so I'm probably just gonna get rid of that. Same here. This one has some merit, so I might mark it as 2. The next one. Kind of like the leg position of that main sandpiper here, and the first one better, so I'm just gonna skip it. This is nice. I like it, so I'm gonna keep that. That one. Something about the position of that central sandpiper, probably where it's lined up with that water puddle, I don't like, so I'm skipping that. Here, this is alright. I'll keep it. Same thing. Not really a fan of the positioning. The hardest thing to select is when you have a series in a row where they're almost identical and you have to figure out which one to keep. So I've seen before people will they'll mark the one they think is the best as in the scenario I saw, it was like maybe they marked it as 5 or whatever, and then they marked everything else as 1 around it, and 1 for them is kind of an indicator of around a good shot. So it gives you the same sequence of series should you decide later when you go to edit that you do need it. But this one looks really kind of cool. I'm gonna mark it as 4. I think this one too is 3, but this one's better, and so I'll go back. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind, is that you can go back and forth, and sometimes you'll see a photo, you come at them with no information, then you go to the next one and you get a sense. So this one's alright. I want to mark it. It's not that great, so I'll mark it as 2. These next 2 are missed focus. This one's okay. It's underexposed. So here I most likely switch the exposure mode to highlight compensation, or what do they call it? can check the information here in the metadata. You know, what? All right, so it seems like probably not actually here. Exposure mode. You know, it might be under metering. Other, yeah. Yeah, other. It's highlight. I can't think of the term, but it's where it takes into account the areas that are the highlights and make sure that they're not overexposed. So I have that mapped up on the camera, so I can easily pop it on and off, and it is very helpful. Let's back to the tools here. Okay. Yeah. So the only difference between these is really the ISO. We can actually take another look here. So this is at 500, and we should see it go up. Yeah, 1250. So just trying to keep that at a higher ISO. So if you want to get a lower ISO real quick, or if you're shooting something like a white bird, you know, you'll get that. Here, I was looking mostly at the reflection of the water. That kind of like that one. This would be good as a, oops, it's a tight crop. So I'm gonna hang on to that, and I'll hang on to that too. Okay, very good. This one looks really cool. I'm just really loving how these dunes look. Or not dunes, well, but the way the water's receded, it looks so cool. All right. This one could be good. I'm gonna hang on to that too. I like this symmetry between these two sandpipers. It almost looks like there's a mirror in between them. And then on top of it, you have this little reflection of sandpiper in the water. Also kind of cool because the mirroring. Keep hitting the wrong button. Let's see. Yeah, let's skip that. Nothing good. That's alright. One thing I have learned is that I try to keep as few pictures as possible, which I guess kind of seems counterintuitive. So these are a good example of like, how do you pick the best one in the series? I mark this as 2. It's definitely not as good as the other 2, but it could have potential. And this one, yeah, something about that doesn't seem as good as the other. That one, that's kind of cool because of the detail. But it's not really doing much for me. I'm gonna hang on to it though because I do really like that detail on this bird. Wow. Okay, cool. Kind of like this one too. That's a little better. Okay, so I'm gonna return that one, drop that one, just because you can see the head of the bird in the second one there. What I can say about this set of photos is I did not expect to see anything good this day. I just was like in a rush. Hopped over to a park that I've been to before, but never really thought about, going to. Um, and there's usually nothing that great there. But this time I saw little deer trails to the river. It happened to be low tide, and I walked out, and there's about 100 sandpipers hanging out, eating just like this. So I expect to take maybe 10, 20 pictures, and I ended up with the 200 something. I was only there maybe 10 minutes. Alright, they're just too spread out. Kind of looks like there's a bunch of garbage too. It's Passaic River, entirely possible. Alright, these are all blown out. We'll just ignore those. Again, my target's probably 5%. So we had 245-ish. 12 pictures. I might be beyond that already. Okay, so none of those lit. They're alright, but the way I'd want to use them would be to crop in closer, and they're not going to be as crisp as they should be. Or I'd like them to be. They're just, far away, the birds. So then I had this camera right here, just kind of like appeared out of nowhere, and then decided to take off. So let's see. This is this bird. Oh. Taking off. Oh, I inverted it by accident. So if you miss command period and hit command slash, like backslash, it's going to invert the image, and I do it all the time. Okay, and I'm going to do option F, which I had mapped to open in Finder. And you can kind of see, I mean, it's not perfect. I can't like zoom in automatically. There we go. Finder opened it. Oh. Yeah, a good amount of noise. Yeah, I mean, it's sharper than in the preview, but it's still not that good. And there's nothing particularly special about this shot that makes me want to keep it, so I'm just gonna skip it. I also see these guys like all the time now. This one might be good. Yeah, I just wasn't expecting this to happen, so I didn't have the shutter speed in the right spot. There's just all sorts of wrong. They were also across the other side of the river too, so they're a bit further, quite a bit further than the sandpipers. Sandpipers were super close. Okay, yeah, I remember taking this sequence, and when I reviewed it, I was disappointed. I don't think I had a single Heber. And then after I left to go back into the park, I like made another 10 feet. For some reason, I looked up in the tree and I see this guy, this red tail. It's a little underexposed. I had a few shots where I needed to kind of get the exposure right. I just don't remember, how this worked out. And see, you had this like sequence where they're almost all like exactly the same. So how do you pick which one is best? All right, so here I went portrait, looking for one where this leaf is not covering the breast detail. That one might be it. Because all things considered, these are all pretty much identical. Yeah, still a little bit of coverage, but not that bad. I'll mark it. Zoom back out. Here we go. I had repositioned too. And I remember thinking these were like really great the day I took them. And then this past week, I managed to get close, like probably within 20 feet, and then almost eye level with another red tail at a different location. And so these, in retrospect, not as good. But it was a windy day, and you could see the feather detail, feathers moving around in the wind, which makes this really nice too. Hang on, let me check this out. I like that. The beak position's a little bit more posed. That's why I chose that out of those three. Not 100% confident these will be sharp, but that'll be later. See, I think I took a little break to take a picture of a squirrel. That squirrel standing, kind of fun. Let's take this 3 or 2. It was just like chilling like that for whatever reason. You know, cool feather detail, but the branch kind of just in the way. See the feathers blowing all in the wind. There we go. This is nice. I'm gonna mark it as a 2 because I missed the bottom of the tail. That's much better. Take that too. I really like how the light's hitting the tail. Yeah, really nice shot of him looking right at me. That's also cool too. You run this like weird issue. It's not an issue. This weird line between storage being really cheap and also having a lot of storage being annoying. You know, these are all basically the same. Actually, this will be a 3. This is a little bit better. And again, it's like these are almost all identical in this sequence. How do you pick the best one? And that's a question I still have open. And then it flew away, and that's it. All right, cool. So now once they're all tagged, what I like to do is I can either tag them with all the other detail if I wanted to first, or what I've been doing for the most part is if anything's unrated at this point, I'll flip back to thumbnails, do a quick look back, just make sure nothing jumps out as like, oh yeah, I wanted that one. And then Control A, hit delete, move everything in the trash. Once it's done, you'll see it working here. All right, once it's done, I reset the filters. Usually take a look at what, if there's anything in 2, just kind of get a rough sense. So I got 44 in 2 or greater. That's one thing that's kind of annoying. The default setting here is greater than or equals, except if you're doing not rated, then it turns out to just be not automatically. I do very much prefer equals because I like to flip through and say, okay, I got 6 out of my 250 that were 2s. 35 out of the 250 that were 3s, so keepers. Calculate that real quick because it's 15%, a little bit high, but honestly, this is a better session than most. And then the ones that will almost certainly get edited. There's one more that I want to add to this, but the force. So, let me see if I can just find this real quick. It's one of these 3 sandpaper ones. It's this one. It just looks sharper and a little bit brighter. Okay. Very good. It's back on our thumbnails. And now here, I'm going to go and also tag these. So that's done under captions, which is a little confusing. And then these are, I spelled that wrong, semi-pomaded sandpipers. Gonna apply that. Everything here is a D7500. So apply that. And then I do need a new tag. Importing this IOC is nice because now I can tag everything in here with the bird. But it makes it really hard just to like grab where they are. So I'm gonna apply that. And then this is Riverside Park, I think. And I do hierarchical tags. Places and J. Oh, places J. Lyndhurst. And then Riverside. Cool. So that gives me all that. One other thing I can do is I can add geotagging. And I've been doing it in Darktable most of the time. So I'm not sure that I exactly know how to do it here off the top of my head. Okay. And I don't know. It's worth trying to figure this out right now. Let's see. Sometimes the search looks really good. Oh, that's the album search. In Darktable, that comes up pretty good. All right, well, we don't need to worry about that right now. Okay, so now I've got everything here. I've got my filters. I got everything all set. Yeah. Looks good. And let me remove this filter. So we're at 1.3 gigs. We deleted 200 pictures. So I'm just gonna ballpark this. It's 200. Deleted about 10 gigs of pictures. That's why I do it this way. I import everything right onto here. Then try and call it as quickly as possible. I do let it sit around in the trash for a while, so my trash is probably huge. If I quickly check that, let me see. pictures. Okay. Yeah, so if I'm here on this, it's in a dtrash folder, .dtrash, this hidden file, in the directory where you have this album set. So I have in my pictures. So I have 48 gigs sitting in the trash right now. And then if we check my usage overall, yeah, data usage, I got 14 gigs left, so I do need to clean it up soon. And then maybe even move some stuff off of this and onto my SSD, which will allow me to free up more space just overall on the built-in hard drive, which is what sort of where I have my working copies. All right. Very good. I think that's all I had planned to do on this. I did want to geotag it, but I'm not sure off the top of my head right now. So what I would probably do next would be import these into Darktable, and then do it there. The whole set is in one location, so I usually just pick one point at that place, so one point inside Riverside Park, and then drag all those images over. I'm sure the process here is pretty similar, but I just don't know it off the top of my head. Okay, so we got all those semi-palm-lighted sandpipers. Let's do this red tail talk real quick too. That was one other thing. So again, captions. I don't have tags for like the squirrel. There we go. All right, very good. And I don't know if I want to bother making a squirrel tag. Yeah. All right. That looks good. All right, so this was the great pictures of the hawk that kind of got superseded. So this was the 27th of last month, and then the 3rd of this month, the 4th of this month. Yeah, I managed to capture these. So by comparison, they are not nearly as good. So, all right. That's all I've got for today. So